Hello everybody, it's me, Diggs, back with another deck showcase. Today we are going over Bazoo Return, a highly requested deck that sits around Tier 2 to Tier 1, depending on who you ask. This deck, I must say, is very consistent in what it wants to do. It sets up a goal and can very consistently reach it just about each time you duel. But without further ado, let's talk about the cards. Bazoo the Soul Eater is the card this whole deck usually relies on, and for a good reason. It can banish up to 3 monsters from the graveyard, and it gains 300 attack for each monster you do so with, and it keeps that boost until the end of your opponent's turn. This heavily enables the deck's main win condition, Return from the Different Dimension, which returns as many banished monsters as possible from the banish zone. This enables you to banish the monsters with Bazoo, then fire off a return for a nice 1-2 combo to finish your opponent off. Just be sure that when you use Return from the Different Dimension, you either win the duel or get very close to doing so, because paying half your life points is no small cost. But it won't be a big deal if you leave your opponent at 1,000 or fewer life points. The deck has staple warriors such as Breaker the Magical Warrior, who is an excellent spell and trap removal and, on summon, baits out any trap your opponent was saving for later. DD Assailant, who banishes any monster who destroys it and itself. DD Warrior Lady, who has the effect to both banish itself and an opponent's monster after battle. The one and only Don Zalug, which can both mill your opponent and hand rip them if he does damage. Exiled Force, a card that tributes itself to destroy another monster, which is often amazing for getting rid of your opponent's boss monster or any other monster they have. Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, a monster that, when it deals damage, banishes 2 of your opponent's monsters, which is amazing for getting rid of 2 of your opponent's monsters like Treeborn Frog or anything else that you really don't want in the grave. And Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke, who will destroy any face-up defense position monster at battles. Very good for getting over any walls your opponent may put up. Chaos Sorcerer is a great monster that can banish a face-up monster and has a pretty easy summoning condition. Cyber Dragon, because a free 2100 is amazing. Dekoichi allows you to draw a card when it's flipped, which is essentially Jar of Greed, Monster Edition. King Tiger Wanghu, a 1700 monster with an amazing effect that stops your opponent from just summoning out their searchers. But you have to be careful around this monster and remember that it affects you as well. Sangon searches out any monster with 1500 or less attack. Book of Moon flips a monster face down, which is very versatile. While Heavy Storm and Mystical Space Typhoon are good spell and trap removal, Nobleman of Crossout gets rid of any face-down monster and has just an amazing upside if you hit a flip monster. Premature Burial brings back a monster from the grave, and Reinforcement of the Army grabs any warrior that's level 4 or below from the deck, so you will have to think carefully before you pick which warrior you want. Smashing Ground is monster removal. Snatch Steal snatches right up an opponent's monster. Call of the Haunted is just Premature Burial, Trap Edition, and it doesn't cost points. And Dust Tornado is another spell and trap removal, except it's a trap, so if you have it, you don't have to play MST face down if you have both. Magic Cylinder deals your opponent damage equal to their monster's attack when they attack. Mirror Force is GOAT, as previously explained. Sakuretsu Armor destroys an attacking monster. And Torrential Tribute gets rid of all monsters on board when something is summoned. And lastly, as usual, the fusions are just there. Overall, I would rate this deck at about an 8 out of 10 on the fun scale. You're going to be having a good time most of the time, but you don't quite get up to the wacky hijinks you can get up to with other decks. But we're not done here yet, oh no, because today, everybody, we're going to get into some games. Looks like after a bit of looking, we found ourselves a match, so let's get to it. I lose the coin toss, but our opponent lets me go first. A pro tip is to never let your opponent go first in YGO Reborn, because even when you're going first, you still draw a 6th card for turn. For now, we're going to set Sakuretsu Armor face down and play King Tiger Wanghu in attack mode. This will ensure our opponent can't summon any small searchers to crash into our monster. Our opponent starts off with Familiar Possessed, but I already have Sakuretsu Armor set and ready to go. They also have 2 face downs, which means I need to be careful. At this point, I still have no clue what deck they're on. So, I'm going to think for a bit and summon Kaiku in attack mode to apply some pressure. Unfortunately, they have Trap Hole. Not ideal. But we still have King Tiger Wanghu on the field, so we swing in for 1700 damage and pass the turn. My opponent follows that up with Shadow Knight Archfiend, a monster with 2000 attack points, and it runs over King Tiger. Now we're in a bit of a sticky situation. They have a 2k monster on board and a face-down card behind it. Thankfully, we do have Cyber Dragon. So we'll special summon Cyber Dragon, but our opponent has Spellbinding Circle. That could have been worse. Luckily, I also have Bazoo the Soul Eater in hand. So we're going to normal summon Bazoo, banish 2 monsters, boost its attack, and run over the Archfiend. At this point, I have Nobleman of Crossout and Call of the Haunted, so I'll set call and end my turn. Our opponent immediately fires off Heavy Storm. Then they summon Chainsaw Insect. Now, Chainsaw Insect is a pretty interesting card. It has 2400 attack on a level 4 monster, but every time it attacks, your opponent gets to draw a card. In this case, that card is Premature Burial. Not bad at all. They also activate Fissure. This isn't looking great. Still, we have Dekoichi. So on my turn, I draw, and my Destiny draw gives me Mirror Force. That's exactly the card we need right now. I set Dekoichi, set Mirror Force, and pass. Unfortunately, my opponent has Nobleman of Crossout. As usual, that banishes my Dekoichi and every other copy from my deck. But there actually is a silver lining here. I get to see their deck list, and after looking through it, I can confidently say they're playing what can best be described as a pile of cards with absolutely no synergy. Still, a win is a win. My opponent goes to battle and attacks. And that's where Mirror Force comes in. Their field gets wiped, and suddenly the duel swings completely back in our favor. Now I'm feeling pretty good. I have Snatch Steal. I have Premature Burial. I have Nobleman of Crossout. So I'll activate Premature Burial, bring back Cyber Dragon, and attack with it. My opponent draws for turn, thinks for a moment, and then simply passes. Looks like they've bricked. I draw Smashing Ground for turn and head straight to battle with Cyber Dragon. Then pass. But my opponent isn't done yet. They activate their own Premature Burial and bring back Archfiend. I assume they wanted the negate effect. But they have Axe of Despair to back it up and swing into my Cyber Dragon. So now things get a little more interesting. I draw another Cyber Dragon. Perfect. I special summon it immediately and then activate Snatch Steal. I'm trying to steal the Archfiend and completely swing the duel. Unfortunately, Archfiend negates it. A little unlucky, but that's fine, because I have the backup plan. Smashing Ground destroys the Archfiend, and I win the duel. Now, to be fair, that duel was against more of a beginner player. So let's see if we can't find ourselves a better opponent. Sorry for the lack of TTS in this following duel, but it was not behaving with me. Should be able to configure it correctly for the next few videos, though this duel is relatively easy to follow.